What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another S2 Dryfire Friday. In today's dry fire training, I'm going to be showing you some drills to help you build speed and accuracy using your handgun. Let's get started. Alright guys, so for today's training, I'm going to be using a SIRT pistol. You guys can use a SIRT pistol if you have one, or you can use one of those laser inserts that's designed for dry fire training, or you can use the optic on your gun if you have an optic. And if you don't have any of those, it's not that big of a deal. It's not mandatory by any means. Do the drills, you'll get some great results regardless, okay? So today's training, I'm going to share something with you guys that I do all the time, and I can't tell you how much it's helped me in building speed, accuracy, and overall control of the firearm. However, it's going to seem a little bit mundane or boring at first, okay? But if you put the time in, you're going to find out that you're going to get some great results in a short period of time. So what are we working on today? Well, when I'm trying to get faster and more accurate, I'm really not chasing speed. I'm chasing efficiencies. I want to see what I'm doing right, I want to see what I'm doing wrong, and I want to find out how to do it better. And one of the best places to be able to do that is what we call a micro drill. Alright guys, so here's a basic training tip for you guys on how to improve on any skill, whether it's firearms related or not. Number one, break each task down into subcomponents. Number two, drill and train each subcomponent independent of each other, preferably in a manner that's measurable. Number three, put each subcomponent back together in small progressions. If you have a three-step process, then you would put 1 and 2 together, 2 and 3 together, then you would go 1, 2, and 3, which brings us to step number 4, which is put them all together and go test. Now back to the lesson. Today's micro drill is based off of one particular aspect of firearms training, and that is the presentation, going from a high compressed ready out to a full presentation and making sure it's perfect. Now you might be like, Nick, I can already do that. Yes, you can, but can you do it better? So there's a few things that we see that happen for people. One, they punch out really hard and then the front of the gun kind of shakes around, and you can see that. I'll do this to the camera a couple times. Watch how the muzzle kind of shakes around, which means that the sights aren't aligned and people are chasing it. So there's one mistake. Another mistake is that it's inconsistent. And if you watch people who are like master level shooters, right? Scott Jedlinski, Gabe White, Jerry Michalek, Travis Haley, these kinds of guys, not only do they have it perfect every single time, but they constantly tell you, fix your grip and fix your presentation. It's that important. Plus, this is a motion that we do in almost every manipulation with the firearm. If I'm drawing from the holster, at some point I have to make a presentation. If I'm working around barricades or something that's in the way, then I'm constantly compressing and going back out and making presentations. If we're talking about room entry or infrastructure navigation, again, I have to be in compress ready and come out to a full presentation. We do this over and over and over. It's redundant. And so that's part of the reason why I have to focus on it. That, my friends, is what we call a clue. So today's training session, I'm going to walk you through a few small progressions that go a long ways, okay? So here's where we're going to start off. First thing I want you guys to do is close your eyes, extend out, make a presentation, and open your eyes. And see what that natural point of aim is, okay? Close your eyes, extend out, and then open your eyes. Do you have the perfect sight picture? And if the answer is no, don't worry, you're like one of 99%, okay? And so make that adjustment. For me, it's coming out a little bit low, so I have to bring it up. For some people, it's far left, or far right, or far low, or far high. Doesn't matter, people get this all the time. So find that natural point of aim, and then come up to the point where you have that perfect presentation, where you have the perfect sight alignment, sight height, all of that, okay? So now we've identified two particular points. One, what's the natural point of aim? Two, what is the perfect presentation? And so by doing that, we now know what adjustment we need to make right off of the bat. Now when you get to that perfect presentation, I want you to hold that there for a second and really think about everything that's going on. What your hands feel like, what does the gun feel like inside of your hands, what's going on with your wrists, your forearms, your elbows, your shoulders, all of that. Really soak it in. And I would highly recommend that you come out to that perfect presentation a whole bunch of times, pause, and then really absorb what that feels like. Program in your mind and in your body what perfect feels like. How do you know what perfect is if you've never been there? right? Okay, so now we went from natural point of aim out to perfect presentation, and we're recognizing what perfect presentation looks like, okay? From this particular point, I want you to, in slow motion, start backing off to the point where the front sight starts going into your periphery, okay? So natural point of aim, up, and start backing out to the point where the front sight post is basically in your periphery. You can't focus on it. That's kind of a cusp. The faster I recognize where that front sight post is, if I need to make adjustments right away, I can. If it's good to go, most of the time on that brink of line, I can start pressing the trigger and I'm gonna be on target. It may not be a precision hit, but it's gonna get me pretty close to where I need to be. So if I have to press the trigger sooner, I can, especially at short distances, 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. So natural point of aim, perfect presentation, and slow motion back off to the point where we could see that front sight post basically in our periphery. All right, guys, so now that we have those 3 spots down, right? The natural point of aim, the perfect presentation, and then that spot where the front sight post kind of is in our periphery or it's in our focal plane, it's in that little zone, we can now start working off of that. Now, here's the deal. If you're shooting fast or if you're shooting under stress, most often you're gonna go to your natural point of aim, but because we just did this, you will understand to go to the natural point of aim and make that immediate adjustment. That's just a repetitions game. Then you'll be able to skip right past the natural point of aim and go out to that perfect presentation every single time. Again, that's why I said you just gotta put time and reps into this thing and you'll get great results. The reason why we are paying attention to where that front sight post is because if I extend out, especially in a defensive encounter, and I know where that front sight post is in close range, I can start pressing the trigger right away, which makes me sooner to the fight. If I have to extend out and find this whole type of deal, it's gonna slow me down. There's cleanup work to happen at the end of the presentation. And so by knowing where that front sight post is at, I can reliably count on that to be where it needs to be before I'm at full extension, okay? And keep that in mind, especially in the 3 yard and 5 yard kind of ranges. The other reason why I point that out is because if you are going to point shoot, right, meaning get out there and hit, at the very least, we want to have that in our peripheral to make sure that we have some kind of accuracy getting on target. And so knowing where that front sight post comes into the focal plane is really important. Here's a quick story for you guys too. Recently, I put an optic on one of my pistols, and I'm a lot like a lot of everybody else that I was struggling finding the red dot on the optic. I would make a perfect presentation and I'd be right in line with the iron sights, and then the red dot would be just nowhere to be found. Next thing you know, I'm kind of moving it around and steering it and going down, and where's this thing happening? And so there's all kinds of stuff. So I came back to this particular drill set and put in about 300 to 500 reps every single day for the past week. And now I can pretty much reliably every single time get that red dot to be where I need it to be. So keep that in mind. If you guys are getting a red dot, you're gonna have to put in a little bit of legwork. This would be a good drill series to help you out. Okay, so the next step in our drill progression is to make sure that we're traveling in that same plane, right? So at first we went to natural point of aim to perfect presentation, and then back out to find that front sight post. Now what I want you to do is go from that high compressed ready, slow motion, okay? Count this out in your head, figure out where that spot is, come through that same line. There's that front sight post for me. I know where that's at. I can press the trigger from here and be pretty good to go, and then continue on to make that full presentation. I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. Why? Because we started this drill off doing that, right? And so we're gonna go slow motion, straight out, find it, straight back, straight out and find it. Sometimes I'll press the trigger to get the laser to confirm where I'm at, and then straight back. And we do this in slow motion, real slow motion, okay? Real slow motion. And if you guys are working on getting faster at a draw, let's just say, this is a great place to work on that too. Defeat the garment, get the gun out, marry the grip, come back out and make sure that's going through that focal plane, all right? And so that's kind of where I want you guys to be. So the last step in this particular drill set is to start building speed progressively, right? A little bit faster every single time. So we start off going nice and slow like you guys were just doing for me. A little less slow, 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 and a little less slow. And what we're looking for is where we go wrong. What's the breaking point? How fast can I do this and still keep it correct? This is where having a SIRT pistol or that laser insert really comes in handy, because at the end of it, what I want you to do is press the trigger and see if you're on target, if you are actually making a good presentation, because you can certainly come out fast and then not know where that round's going. There's a problem with coming out fast. People will come out and they'll jam up against their elbows and watch the muzzle end of the gun. You see how much it shakes? Coming up against the elbow, they're tightening the grip as it's happening, and the front end of the gun's moving. Well, that's cleanup work. I'm not gonna press the trigger if the front of the gun's doing one of these guys. And so we wanna avoid that. One, we shouldn't be up against the elbows anyways. We shouldn't be hyperextended. We should be just short of where they lock out. 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 And the reason why we do that is so that way we can control the recoil inside of our arms and not have the gun waving up and down, okay? We don't want to attach 2x4s to the gun. We want those to be shock absorbers. And so keep that in mind. You have to find what that cusp is for how fast you can get out there and still maintain an acceptable standard of accuracy. Now, when you guys have this all down, you know, you started the natural point of aim, you went up to the perfect presentation, you found that front sight post and know where that falls off in your line of sight. Then we start going super slow to figure things out. We start bypassing the natural point of aim and going straight to the perfect presentation, putting in reps so that way that point becomes our natural presentation. And then we started to press the trigger a little bit early if we need to, because now I can see where that front sight is, I'm still on target. And then the last thing is starting to progressively build speed. And so that's how we started to get more efficient with what we do. If you find out that the gun's shaking, or you're low, or you're high, or you're left, back it off the throttle, slow down, and spend some time over there getting it right, and then progress later on. So here's what I want you guys to do. In the next 10 days or so, I want you to get about 1,500 to 2,000 reps of just this presentation and make it as smooth as possible, keeping it as accurate as possible. Then go to the range and try and go from the high compressor ready out and press the trigger. And you can put that on a timer. You can check out your target to see what kind of accuracy you have and make adjustments. Sometimes you have problems in the grip. Sometimes there's some alignment issues. Okay, you have to identify those and then fix them. So work on today's micro drill, get a good 1,500 to 2,000 reps of this, and I promise you, you're gonna notice a big difference right away. All right, guys, so that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. Hopefully you'll use it. And make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell. Next week, we're gonna be working on some malfunctions, and in 2 weeks, we're gonna be doing some vehicle-based work in Dryfire. So stay tuned for that. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit that notifications bell. I'll see you guys on the next lesson.